Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Big Home Ed Conversations. My name is Kelly Rigg. I'm a home educating mum of two and a qualified mindset and ADHD coach. I'm passionate about supporting parents and neurodivergent families as they navigate children not okay at school and ultimately then the transition from mainstream schooling into home education. I'm here together, as always, with my lovely co-host, Ashley Venerio. She's a fellow home ed mum of three and a former primary teacher. We created the Big Home Ed Conversations podcast with what began as honest, heartfelt talks around the coffee table, and it's now grown into a space where hundreds of listeners now tune in for real, unfiltered conversations about alternative education, mindset, and educational philosophies. We cut through the noise and focus on what really matters to home educating families. Now, this season, we have been sponsored by Strew. It's a home education logging app that has really started to take this country by storm. We've heard lots of people talking about it. Essentially, it's a way of kind of keeping track of all of the amazing things that you are doing with your children. The idea is not necessarily about forward planning. It's all about reflection, observations, noticing what's going on in your world and seeing all the incredible things your kids do. As you log things, it can obviously use its AI assistant within it to analyze what you've been doing. If you want to use it, you can toggle it off, and that can help to pull through all the developmental milestones your children have met whilst they have been learning. And it's really starting to come together. I know that Woody and his sister, who's a home educating mum based in Wales, have been working really hard to listen to people's feedback. And obviously myself and Ashley have given them lots of feedback as we've been using it ourselves these past weeks, logging lots of things that we've been doing with our kids. And I have to say, I am loving my feed now. I don't know about you, Ashley, but I've got such a lot on there now that looks so beautiful. So many photos and things that I scroll through. And it's just really nice to see all of the lovely things that we've been up to. What's great going forward is that we've got these features that they're working on all the time. And as this is the last episode of the season, we're obviously recapping what it is, but also to let you know about some of the features that it's got coming up, including kind of cloud syncing, which is an optional thing for multiple devices. They're improving the study point system to make it a bit clearer, to make it a bit more usable as a day-to-day tool. They're putting in reoccurring activities. They're looking at kind of making sure that AI is able to give you learning suggestions and reflections on recent focuses to help prompt you in other directions. And they're also helping to develop like a bookshelf, which is actually something Ashley was talking about, kind of creating herself by scanning books into it as well. So there's all kinds of things that it is kind of gradually adding and working on. It changes every day. Almost every day when I log in, like it's tweaked a little bit or improved a little bit, or something's a bit more sort of accessible or easier to understand. I know that I've really enjoyed using it, and I probably will absolutely continue using it for the foreseeable future, trying to actually keep track of all the lovely things that I get up to with my kids. I'm excited to see how it develops.
I think now is the great time as well. People don't typically think about going into summer and having that break period as like logging your activities. It feels like a scholastic thing. But I think that now is the right time to start to play around with something like this, especially given potential changes or very real changes that are going to happen across the next year or so. It's the right time to start to see if this is something that could work for you. So it's absolutely worth taking some of your downtime over the summer to maybe just play with it, give it a go, see how it might work for you, so that when you hit September and you're starting back into your school stuff, you'll be ready. You're not trying to learn something new. Not that it takes a lot to learn, but you want it just to be sort of more of a habit. So work on that habit building over the summer would be my suggestion, because I think it's a really helpful thing.
And fill it up with all the beautiful photos, all the fun stuff you get up to, and start to notice as well through that really lovely child-led fun play how many developmental milestones they're actually hitting just with the normal stuff that they get up to.
Yeah, exactly.
Because sometimes that can be really helpful as well. Okay, so obviously this is meant to be the last season of the episode. We promised you an episode on internet safety and security. And then we both went off for our annual camp with our big home ed group. And basically the real world took over. We thought we'd just be honest and say that it's actually really important sometimes, even if you have the best intentions, you've got a topic you want to cover with the kids, there's something that's coming up that you feel you want to cover, that actually real life matters more sometimes. And I know for certain that this incredible camp that we've just been on mattered way more than this conversation right now. It's not to say that we will not come back around to it and do more on it. And we did do a little, but we thought instead we might talk to you guys today about the importance of allowing the world to take over sometimes, and to allow that real life learning to really shine and to do what it does best. But yeah, did you manage to do much with it, Ashley, either? I know that we did both struggle with this one a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, it just didn't feel natural to be like on like a week away preparing like for a no screen week to then be like, let's talk about how to be safe on screens. So yeah, so basically, I think what we did manage was to talk a little bit about safety in general, but it did not apply to the internet. Now, that said, I have been looking at how we are going to work this in to the school year, because there's a lot that I want to do around computers in general. So
Hmm.
we've been really off of screens and have used them for very specific reasons, but my kids have not like dabbled. They've not written a paper because I'm more worried about their handwriting. So everything writing wise is done by hand right now, and getting that, pen to paper feel. So
Hmm.
as we've like built that stamina, we've really neglected the computer aspect on purpose. But I want to focus on that
Yeah.
this year. So we're going to do more typing. We're going to do more things on the computer. We're going to do more research. We're going to do very specifically guided projects. But I want us to also loop in just the safety around all of that. That makes sense, right? Because we're doing it all together. So that will
Yeah.
happen. It just didn't happen yet. But what we did talk about was just doubling down on, we're in a very open campsite and it feels super safe because we're surrounded by a ton of friends, and every kid is running off in different directions. But they sort of naturally
Mm.
kept to that like close bubble until like the further we got into the week, right? They kind of pushed that limit a little more, a little more, a little more, a little
Hmm.
more. And then the last day
Yeah.
we were there, I spent 20 minutes looking for my children. And that whole time I was telling myself, don't panic. They're fine. Nothing has happened, but they're still little. I mean, they're not that little, but they're still little.
Hmm.
And so
Yeah.
they have, we had another conversation about that, this felt really uncomfortable for me. And
Hmm.
what did it feel for you? Did you think maybe you should have let me know which direction you were going off in, or, stuff like that? So we sort of revisited that begrudgingly on our drive home that
Yeah.
day.
Is that the end of camp lecture?
Yeah.
No, it's so hard, isn't it? Because I started out the week very much with my kids, sort of reminding them that these are the boundaries I feel comfortable with.
Right.
If you're going any further than that, I need you to tell at least one adult where you are going specifically. But that realistically, you have no reason to be going any further than that. Like, that's a really big catchment. We had this lovely big open campsite. There's plenty of space. And it's a big group of us too. So we took over a huge chunk of it in general. So there really wasn't any reason for them to be going much further. But obviously, they always push the boundaries of what has been recommended to them. And I did find myself getting frustrated a couple of times, being like, where have you been? Like, you literally told me you would stay within this area. Sorry, I just wanted to go and explore over there. And I'm like, okay, but then you just needed to say, I'm about to go and explore over there. And so we could then make a decision. Should one of us come with you, or should you be doing it by yourself? And I think
Right.
this is the hardest part with growing up, isn't it? Because when I always say this about the cats going out, like to try and reassure the children, and in a way it kind of it's kind of come back to bite me in the butt, which is that the cats go further and further every day, exploring their environment, like exploring the next door neighbor's garden, wandering along the fence, like they don't go further than they feel comfortable, and they gradually build up their awareness of where they are and how to get back. And I think the exact same thing happens at campsites, especially when it's that big, because they do just start to get confident and comfortable. They know how far away they're going. They know the route back. But that works until it doesn't, right? it's trying to
Yes.
get them to understand that we need to at least know the rough direction you were going in so it can actually have some hope of following you. And they are all
Yeah.
getting on right now, aren't they? They're like sort of 10 plus, most of them. So they are very capable kids. And they were staying in a group always as well. So that helps as well. But yeah, we definitely had to have a lot of conversations around safety, communication, like just asking permission, but also not so much necessarily always needing permission, but just to have a conversation and make sure that we understand what they're doing. And I think the same can absolutely be applied to the online world. And I found one of the things I found tricky about this is that obviously mine are too young currently to be discussing obviously the darker secrets of the internet.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
exactly.
so I absolutely don't want to be actually letting them know that things are there
Exactly.
beyond the time that they find it themselves. And I'm trying
It's
very
such a
hard to
catch
keep
22,
this
isn't it? Yeah.
like even vague, because I know a lot of you listen with your children. So now I'm like, I don't even know where I can go with this. So if you're feeling a bit uncomfortable right now, turn it off. But there are things that we need to talk about with them eventually. And my son is nearly there, and I am in no I'm not being silly or oblivious in thinking that he will not find all those things very soon. The hormones are gunning. But I did have to think to myself, okay, what are they doing online? What are the areas that they're doing things on? So they've got things like YouTube. They are watching videos that are being made by creators. Like they do watch sort of TikToks and Instagrams and stuff over my shoulder sometimes. Obviously, I'm quite careful
Mhm.
about what we're watching in those moments, but they are. We do see the odd thing as well that's inappropriate before I can swipe off of it. And so it's recognizing what the dangers are in those. So one of the main things we actually ended up doing was we went onto YouTube and we were just watching videos that they normally like watching. And what we did is we took some time to notice things like the frame change rate. So the frame rates when they are changing the angle, the closeness, the view, what you're watching. And we counted in a 30-second window how often it like zoomed in on his face and then zoomed out and then panned to something else and kept the video physically moving along.
Mhm.
And it was
Mhm.
16 times in a 30-second window
Right.
that it changed. And we were talking to each other, they were like, why does that matter? And I was just like, well, how does it make your brain feel? Like, have you had the urge to stop watching this video, or does it constantly kind of make you go, oh, what's next? What's next? What's next? That's what they're doing, is basically just pulling you in. And I said, and then like we talked about the fact that eventually they go, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel, make sure to go and check out my website, make sure to come and buy my product, like all of this stuff all the way through it. I said, this is all influencing you. So when we watch someone doing something, it influences us to change our minds about something or to do something differently or to think differently about something. And we just have to be really mindful of the fact that this was super fast paced videos. And then we like compared it to a documentary as well, because we just sat and watched something that was super relaxing and slower pace. And it wasn't as stimulating. And they said it isn't as exciting, but they remembered more of it as well. They actually felt like they took the information in. And we've had a few conversations like this over the years, because it is important to recognize that even just the act of watching videos might not necessarily all be bad, but it is definitely doing something to the way that our brains are then capable of dealing with slower, less exciting stuff. So like, for example, sitting and just reading a book can then become quite tricky because our brain wants that fast-paced, quick feed entertainment. And yeah, so anyway, so it was quite an interesting conversation around just being mindful of even just watching that there is potentially some videos which could encourage you to do things which are dangerous. Or like he was watching one where someone was buying reptiles off the dark web, for example.
Mm.
And he didn't understand that meant that was wrong, that they shouldn't be doing that that's illegal. It shouldn't have been like buying those at all, that they're not supposed to be in captivity or they're not safe to have in captivity, etc. And he just thought they were really cool reptiles, and he was just loving learning about all these different reptiles this guy was getting.
Yeah,
And I was just like, this is so frustrating, because you're just like
it is.
normalizing breaking the
Yeah.
law. um
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, and obviously as kids who are very keen on conservation and caring about animals, when I explained that to him, he was devastated. And we did report the account, and we did obviously do all the things you're supposed to do with it. But yeah, this is a really big kind of bugbear for me, as YouTube. I really don't love it as a platform at all. We have managed to weed it out of their life significantly. Like, it's very, very small amounts of time on it now, thank God. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
there's a lot to this stuff which they just, as a child, don't fully understand the consequences of some of these platforms and what they do to our development and to our satisfaction levels,
Mhm.
our ability to
Mhm.
remember things. Like, that they all have got risks attached. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
I've enjoyed camping partly as well for the reason that it actually allowed them to slow down, come back into the present.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we didn't look at screens at all. It was amazing. And I mean, I
Mm,
think one of the things that we've been focusing on, even before we sort of picked this topic, but it's a good one to lean into on, is also all the fake news and like just to your
mm,
point, like normalizing things that aren't actually real or that aren't right. And so I actually subscribed us to this daily news show. It is, I believe, Christian based. So I say that to say that anyone can get something from it. It
yeah,
but I want to put the caveat out there that it is produced by a religious organization. But it just goes through the news for the day. And it's great
mm,
because it's totally children appropriate. You're not going to hear anything
mm,
that isn't appropriate, but they do tackle things in a way that still doesn't like gloss over some issues in the news. So I
yeah,
was like, okay, this is great because it cuts out me having to scavenge for something that, like, I noticed when we were in Florida, my parents have the news on all the time. And a lot of the things are super graphic or just like explained
yeah,
point blank. And the kids were like,
mm,
oh, like eyes bugging out. And I'm like, okay, we can't watch this now. um,
yeah,
they don't want to leave the house. I was really excited to find this. I'd sort of put it off because you have to pay for it, but I can give the information. You can put it in the show notes so that if you're interested in it, you can take a look. And it just fit that need really quickly. And that way I can just say, okay, like here's something on the internet, but I vetted it. This is why we're watching it. The kids find it interesting because there are children in it as well. I find it interesting because I'm learning things I didn't necessarily know because I
yeah,
tend to avoid the news as well. And yeah, so it's been working out pretty good as like a way to kickstart the morning. We'll either watch it during breakfast or right after breakfast. And if we miss a day, the girls will be like, "Oh, we didn't watch the news. Like we have to watch the news." So it is really nice. And then
yeah,
we do the Yodo daily podcast that produces. And I think you can just get it on any podcast. You don't need the Yodo app or device to do
mm,
it. So that one's a really good one as well, just to kind of get some content that feels accurate and legit. So
yeah,
that is the thing where I'm trying to instill in them that not everything they see is factual because our kids just blindly believe,
mm,
right? They blindly follow, like, okay, this adult is saying this, that's true, or these kids are talking about this,
yeah,
that's right. And it's getting into the okay, we need to actually fact check a little bit. We need to look at the sources. We need to look at where this content's coming from. What credentials does this person have? And it's really interesting. This is sort of off topic, but there's a woman that I get a lot of homeschool ideas from. I follow her on Instagram. We've had a lot of conversations, together off the app, and she's a big, I guess I would say, home ed influencer. She was looking for some science content. I might have even talked about this before, and the she was looking at the author of the content and was just like, "Oh, who is this person?" and searched them, and they actually have no science degree. And she was like, okay, I don't mind when people put together like unit studies or things. I can certainly research a couple things and put something together for my kids to learn that would be accurate and factual, right? But I'm not writing a 500-page science textbook. So I think like we were having this conversation and she was also putting it out to everyone of like
mm-hmm,
where is the line, like because I she puts stuff together, I create stuff for my kids, we all create stuff for our kids, right?
mm-hmm,
And we utilize things from different content creators off of like Etsy or Teachers Pay Teachers or just other independent creators.
mm-hmm,
But like if we have this spine, do I want my biology book written by someone who has a biology degree? Where, like, what is that? And
yeah,
so just that conversation, it's like, you know what, that's really interesting because I blindly trust that when I buy not a unit study, but an actual textbook curriculum, that the creators of that
mm,
are actually knowledgeable in what they're doing. And that's not to say that you
Mm.
can't find your way there outside of that. You can self-educate 100%.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
probably someone overseeing that content should be listed that it's been reviewed and vetted by someone that has that correct degree. So it just goes to
Yeah,
show
just
that
has a
like
lot of experience too, right? Like
yeah,
someone who really
right,
knows what they're talking about. Like you would expect that it's someone
right,
who's either got a significant amount of life experience teaching that
correct,
subject or
correct,
knowing about that subject or working in
yep,
that subject. Yeah, you wouldn't expect
exactly,
just like,
like
although I
a
know a lot about
random,
it, I would not I would
yeah,
not say that
someone
I
with
should
a
be
bachelor
writing a
of
biology
arts
textbook.
writing a biology textbook,
Yeah.
right? So this was the thing. So then, but then it caused this conversation of like, well, but actually, there's probably ways to get there where you didn't necessarily get your master's in biology, but
Yeah.
so this kind of created this interesting conversation of like, okay, so what are we looking for? Like, what do I want to see if I'm going to
Yeah.
put this content in front of my kids? What feels good and what feels like not enough? And so it was just a really interesting point, and it was something that I never questioned. I just was like, yeah, this looks
Mm,
like biology to me. So we are going to keep having conversations like that, and I think I'm going to actually bring that up as we do things. So like
yeah.
when we're doing a specific thing, I'm going to say, okay, this unit study that we're doing was written by this person and this is their background.
Yeah.
Like even just to start to
Yeah.
plant the seed of like, when you read a book,
Checking your
I always say,
sources.
yeah, check your sources. I always say to my kids, this is the
Mm,
author, this is the illustrator. We read the
yeah.
dedication. We read stuff that's written by the author. If there's a note from the author, we read that. So, just getting all the details, I guess, and then letting them come to their own
Mm,
decision, but instilling the habit
yeah.
of like, I don't do that. I don't say who wrote this book. I don't say who this curriculum's from. And now I'm going to do that. And I'm going to start researching that myself.
Yeah.
It takes 5 minutes and you get a lot of information. So, yeah, just
Yeah.
that fact checking
I
that
think that's so
isn't fake.
important in terms of and that really does feed into a lot of other things. I mean, you think like not just for where you get your information from, but using AI was like in a
Yeah.
sensible way. Like when you first meet someone, like don't always just take someone's word for things. Like people have got
Mm-hmm.
opinions that they masquerade as
Mm-hmm.
facts all the time.
Yeah.
And it's super important to make sure that the people who you trust, the people who you're vulnerable with, the people who you spend time with are all kind of the advice they give you, the support they give you is coming from a place of fact or knowledge, not just their opinions. And I think this is something which, as children, I would say to so one of the things I talk to them about is sort of sharing our data with people as well. That it's important to think like, do I trust this person? Do I know them? Do I know where they live? Do I know where like what do I know
Yeah.
about them? And I was, for example, I always drill into my kids about do not ever, ever, ever give people your surname. Like if you're in a server on a game or something or whatever, like don't tell them your surname, don't tell them what your pet names are, don't tell them where you live. You can say you're in England if you want, but don't tell them anything else. And yeah, just like don't say that you've got a sister. Don't say that, you know what I mean? Like don't give them
Right.
information about you and your
Details.
life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're just like, but what if they're my friend, mummy? Like, what if they're telling me about their pets and they want to know about mine? I'm just like, this is so mean because it does feel a bit like I'm just saying like, no, just don't tell them anything. And I had a big chat with them about the fact that I met my husband online when I was about 16, just in a chat room. He was 21. I was nearly 17 by the time I met him. I met him with my parents. It was done as above board as you could possibly make it. Back then, it was weird as hell.
Right.
It was such a weird thing to do. And actually, we hit it off, and we've been together ever since. And like we're 20 odd years together now, right? And so I said, it's not all bad. Like meeting people online, getting to know them, bringing them into your life is not necessarily the worst thing you can do. And I said, but it must be done safely. And I said, like, one day you might get the urge to meet somebody who you've been chatting to in a chat room that you're getting to know, or you've been playing on a server of the game or whatever, and you started playing with that person lots, and they find out they're reasonably local, and you want to try and meet up. We can do that, but with us. Like, do not ever do it by yourselves. I tried to meet up with somebody when I was a teenager that I shouldn't have done, and it scared the bejesus out of me. And it's not
Yeah.
sensible, and it is so unsafe. And ultimately, I was then having a conversation. So the point of this anyway was I was having a conversation with somebody recently that I hadn't long met, and I was like, "Oh, whereabouts are you? We're here." Like, and my son was like instantly like, "Mummy, don't tell them where we live."
Oh,
And I was like, "Oh, high five, good job!" Like, I'm so glad that you are thinking like, "No, we don't tell people that."
yeah.
Because that was like, great, it's sunk in, like that piece of information. I'm like, you don't want to scare them, but I said, this is all data, this is your information. I said, as you get older, if somebody has been what's called grooming you for all that information over time, then when you turn
Yes.
18, they get a credit card, they put your favorite pet's name on it, like they, you know what I mean, they
Yeah.
can hack
Yeah.
into all of it because you've given them all this lovely data about yourself, they know everything about you. I said, even video chats can't be trusted these days because of AI. Like, they could be using some clever app that means that they look like a child when actually they're still a grown up. And I said, you are entering into a world that's terrifying in terms of how people can fake being something they're not. And I said, so you need to have an adult helping you to navigate these things, just to try and make sure that, like, if you want to meet them or if you want to get to know them more, or you feel like you want to get closer to them, then we just do that in a way that's safe. But honestly, I mean, the way that the online world has changed since I was a teenager, I am a little bit scared about it all. And I know I've got a heck of a lot of brushing up to do ASAP because, as I say,
Yeah.
it is not going to be long before they start using the internet for all kinds of stuff. And I really want to make sure that I'm in the know about what they're likely to come across. And I think there's also, like, when it does come to all of those moments when they do start using it for things that we don't want to mention, there are actually websites out there that someone recommended to me recently, which again, I will not mention out loud, but I will pop in the show notes
Hmm.
for details on, which are kind of to do with encouraging children to seek out love and actual genuine relationships instead of seeking out the stuff which obviously is just
Right.
there for entertainment and isn't real and doesn't portray real relationships. So there's all kinds of really great stuff out there now which can allow children to explore these things safely and in ways that obviously allow them as they get older to start to understand stuff without it being inappropriate and scary and like way too intense from too early an age. And one of the things I love about home ed truly is that actually I think a lot of this stuff will come a lot later because truthfully they won't have the same peer pressure to be seeking it out. Um,
Hopefully not. Yeah.
because I mean, I can
Yeah.
remember literally secondary school, like, I mean, I think I was lucky that I didn't really know anything about it until secondary school. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think it's a shame and also there's so much more than just that stuff to be worried about. There's so much more online that is dangerous, so much information out there that's misinformation, fake news sites, AI videos that look real. Like, there's got to be a lot of discernment that they're going to have to learn. And so we did watch a couple of videos as well that were genuine, like real or fake, AI or not AI, and you had to try and guess which ones were which. And they were really good at it actually, but that will change as AI gets better.
It's only getting better too,
Yeah.
which is crazy. Yeah, but yeah, we've played that game too. And now even I'm noticing that we're doing it when we are watching stuff on Instagram. Like my kids, we love watching
Mm,
cat videos. And so they'll do
yeah.
it like over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they'll see me doing something and I quickly switch over and I'm usually watching homeschool stuff to be honest, but
Yeah.
it's nothing super exciting.
No.
And so they're like, let's watch cat videos. So I'll put them up and then we'll play the game of like, is this real? Like, is this cat really wearing that box
Yeah.
and like running around like that? Like, do you think our cat would do that? Maybe, but like, let's see. So at least it's starting them to get them to question, like, oh, this could not be real. Like they just didn't even know it couldn't be real.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. And the other thing that I've been thinking about doing is looking, I know we kind of come back to Outschool for things is trying to find something that maybe talks about like navigating AI or like
Mm,
using AI to create things that seem super realistic. And like,
yeah.
so something like that, maybe to get them to even open up their mind a little bit more, just to
Hmm.
understand, like, gosh, a lot of the stuff I'm seeing isn't even real. And that's super
Yeah.
annoying. And like
Yeah.
books are being written by AI. I'm finding now more and more that the books that I read or even the audiobooks, there'll be a note like, none of this was created with the use of AI. And then it leads me to question, okay, if it doesn't say that, am I to believe that it was
Mm.
potentially? Or is this just a book that was published 10 years ago? And so, of course, it wasn't, and it doesn't have the notification because it didn't have to worry about it then. Like it wasn't
Yeah,
a thing then. So you
exactly.
really have to start to look into things and consider. And then I'm hearing, even I just finished listening to a book yesterday, and at the end it commented about how none of that book can be used to educate AI,
Mm.
which is so fascinating. I just question how that's even possible, like how it's possible to get it and how it's possible to not get it. Like it's so interesting to me how what AI has access to, I guess.
Yeah.
And so even that alone is like something I think is probably country to country based as well. So there's a lot to look into here. There's a lot to educate ourselves and our children on.
There
It's a
is a
little
lot.
daunting.
Yeah, it is really daunting. And I think the truth is as well that like when we I don't know, like there's this element of sometimes I think with parenting where you're dealing with so many things, you're teaching them so much and showing them so much. And of course we talk to them about looking both ways when you cross the road and don't wander off with strangers. Like a friend of ours, for example, at another home ed meetup offered to let my son come and see her new puppy, which is in the boot of her car.
Oh,
And he paused and he looked at me and I was like, excellent stranger danger alert there.
yeah, because that's what we use. That is the standard of like, don't let someone take you away with the
Yeah.
promise of a pet.
With a promise of a pet. Oh my God, it's so funny. And he just sort of looked at me and sort of paused and I was like, amazing. I went, if she offers you sweets or asks you to get in the back seat, run. And I was,
No.
she was like, rude, like I'm not stealing a child. But I was like, no, that's really good. Like I said to him, like, thank you, sweetheart, for pausing there. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so whenever I notice them doing the right thing around that, I always praise them lots. My youngest, when she was very small, used to really make me laugh because literally anyone and everyone should be like, hi, my name is this. My little pet dog at home is this. And she'd like start telling them like all these little kind of like spiel. She had a little spiel that she did. And I was like, if you ask her really nicely, she'll give you her credit card details too. Um,
Yeah.
and she was eventually she was like, what are my credit card details, Mummy? And I was like, you don't have any. It's just a joke. And I said, it's the fact that you give them like every piece of information about you in one big spiel. And I'm just like, maybe we could ease up on that a little. but,
But
but it
what
always
are
used
my
to get
credit
a
card
laugh.
details?
Yeah. But it just used to make me laugh. But like as they get older, they do
Mm,
start to recognize that actually they don't fully understand why it's so important, and it's very hard to explain sometimes, but it is so
yeah.
important. And
Yeah.
equally, like I was obviously coming up and growing up through an age where these things were important, but most people didn't realize they were important yet. And so
Yeah.
I'm very conscious of the fact that I will forget to teach my kids things which are absolutely going to be superbly important when they become an adult. And that's terrifying. And I have to just remind myself that they will learn some lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
Like another great one, my son was playing on a game on the VR headset on a server, and someone basically scammed him into stealing all of these dinosaurs that he'd spent ages collecting. And he was devastated. They promised him that they'd give him a load of money in exchange, like the coins that they have on there, and that they'd switch it back and they'd give him his dinosaurs back in a minute. And then they just logged off and didn't come back. And he
Yeah.
was in tears for like 2 days. He was so devastated, worked so hard to get them all. I was talking to someone else about it and I hadn't quite drawn the same connections. And she was like, it's better those than his life savings.
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, that's a really good point. Like, this is actually a really hard life lesson that you might be a nice person, but not everybody else is. And someone might trick you into doing something and you'll spend a load of money and then actually you're going to really regret it. And that
Yeah.
absolutely could happen. And it's that stuff that teaches us to be wary, to ask questions, to do our due diligence, to check the reviews, to get referrals. Like, you know what I mean? Like to
Yeah.
not just book any old builder we find online and hope for the best. Like it's that stuff that actually ensures that we do actually get what we pay for. And we've all learnt that lesson the hard way at some point in our lives. And it is better it happens when they're little, I suppose, as sad as it
Yeah.
is.
Well, he's never going to do that again.
No,
You know,
exactly.
even if it's 10 years down the road, he'll remember
Yeah,
that,
he
you
will
know?
remember
So,
that. Yeah.
it was, I think that that's one of the things where there was no physical harm.
Yeah.
No monetary harm. Like,
Yeah,
obviously, it
exactly.
was totally traumatic and so important in his world, which is so, so true. But, that lesson will stick. So that's kind of
Yeah.
the best way to learn.
And I think the hard part as well is that whilst it's important to learn distrust, somehow you're also
Mhm.
supposed to teach them how to trust. Um, and I, and that is the biggest
I
head,
know.
messes with your head so much because like in the same vein as I'm saying this, I'm just like, but I don't want him to literally think that everybody who's being nice is actually trying to scam him.
Yeah.
I don't want him to be paranoid and to be terrified of taking any risks. But I guess it's teaching them how to take calculated ones, to do their research, to think about it, to make sure they've done their due diligence. It's not to never take a risk, but it is
Yeah.
just to be conscious of the risks you're taking and to make sure that you're
Yeah.
being mindful of that.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe to pause a minute and say, you know what, this is interesting, but
Mhm.
I'm gonna sleep on it.
Yeah.
Let me take a minute and just kind of go through everything. And that extra time, that person might have moved on, right? And
Yeah.
and been like, oh, okay, this person's not gonna be. I'll go to the next one. We're always so eager, and I think this comes back to bringing it back full circle, like the screen times, and you were talking about how videos are designed to keep us interested, and we know this, right?
Mm.
We know how that frame rate is really important to pay attention to when you're showing kids things and all of that. Um, and we're so used to the instant gratification, doing it quickly. Let's get it done. We want
Mhm.
to commit. We don't want to have the person walk away or whatever.
Yes.
And yet actually that that's almost been instilled in us. And sometimes we make mistakes with that. I've certainly done it
Mhm.
myself. And
Yep.
so I think there is that taking a pause, taking a beat, thinking about it a little bit more. Let's just wait. If it's meant to be, it'll
Yeah.
still be there. That kind of thing can help, right?
Exactly.
And
Take a
so,
pause, step back and think about it,
yeah,
do some research, read the reviews.
exactly, exactly. Read the reviews.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
So,
believe them too, right? Read the reviews and believe them. If people are
yeah,
saying repeatedly the customer service is terrible, the quality of the product is terrible, don't
it's
just go,
probably
"Oh, those
terrible.
people are just grumpy."
Yeah.
Believe them.
If there's
Um
that many, yeah.
yeah, there's lots that you need to think about it. But I think obviously coming back around to touching on what we also wanted to talk about today is our kind of last episode of this season, which I'm kind of sad about. I'm excited to be back in September though. I look forward to us all kind of getting on with our
Yeah.
next round of topics. But talking about how the real world kind of takes over these conversations, obviously we've managed to actually do quite well at covering this subject, I think, and there's lots more that we'll do in the future. Um,
Yeah.
but the real world life thing, the fact that actually a lot of this stuff has been done in snatched conversations a little bit here and there, because real life got in the way. And that is such a good thing. And sometimes I think we feel really bad or worry about this, like if we're moving house or we've had a new baby or stuff's going on that means that we sort of, I don't know, we've lost somebody who's really important to us, and everything derails. And the home ed stuff, maybe like the topics you're planning or the intentional maths you normally do every Tuesday, whatever it is, all kind of drops away and you're like, oh my God, everything's fraying at the seams. There's so much learning that's happening in these moments when they are just free to do whatever it is that they come across. And this week I've seen kids making endless bead related things and kites out of paper, and they've been using their hobby horses relentlessly and going off on hacks to the toilet block and making themselves a picnic so they can go and sit and have a picnic somewhere pretty and shady. And we've been learning about sun safety and the importance of boundaries and communicating with adults and staying together. Lots and lots of daily negotiations around bedtime, yay, and teeth brushing, yay, and eating something, please, yay. That it really shows me I've had so many compliments about my son this week and his offering to help. There's a lady there who was pregnant who was struggling to pull out the pegs of her tent, and he offered to help. And someone, a mum who was a bit upset when she was trying to set up her tent, she was on her own and she was getting a bit overwhelmed, and he came and offered to help and asked if she was okay and if she needed some water. When there's a little one who wanted to play with the water guns, there wasn't any more left. He gave up his water gun and let the little one have a go for a bit. Just so many
Hmm.
things. He broke a toy that belonged to a different family that wasn't part of our group. They were playing with some of the foam aeroplane things, those styrofoam aeroplanes that last 5 minutes. And sadly, one of them got broken, and he took it over and apologized straight away, and was super accountable for his actions. And all
Yeah.
of these things have really they've been a massive eye opener for me as well, because sometimes I think when we're contained at home and it's just us and we're just we're right up in each other's business, you actually lose sight of a lot of this stuff. Like, you don't almost give them the opportunity to be all of these things. And
Yeah.
I have had a lot of eye-opening moments this week. I have learned a lot about him and about my daughter as well. She was absolutely wonderful with all the little tiny ones. She helped to take care of so many of them and stop them from running off, or headed them off before they got too far, or was worried about the fire at one point, asked if we could blow out the little candle that we'd lit in the middle because she was worried about the little one that kept wanting to go near it. And so many things where she's been super aware, and that's been lovely for me to see, to kind of remind myself of all of their wonderful, wonderful qualities, but also give them room to exercise them, to be in community, to do these things. That if we'd stayed home and focused on academia, none of those things would have been there for them to have an opportunity to do. And that is so important, and it's so beautiful. It really is so beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice to get these opportunities and be able to see how they all interact. I mean, this is a full on 7-8 day together with other families.
Yeah.
So it was definitely giving the opportunity for everyone to play with different people, not just go to their go-to immediately and get to sort of explore around. So yeah, I thought it was great, and I'm definitely excited to do it again next year.
Yeah. I think it's just wonderful, isn't it? And I think when you kind of see people, as a lot of the mums there were kind of with 3 kids, one of which was a baby, is like utter terrorizing them basically. And I think so many of them got to see the older ones and how they were all kind of functioning, and we were able to relax, they were able to run off and play, and it kind of gave them some hope that in a couple of years' time it's going to be way easier and they're going to love it and it's going to be lovely.
Yeah.
But also it showed them as well that it was okay to ask for help. It was okay for us to step in and support them sometimes, that there were other ways to get around some of the problems they're facing. Like, some of them like really absolutely couldn't be left with anybody else, but we worked out that if they got them busy playing with something with me, then they could sneak away and go do their business, and come back. Literally, poor woman, bless her, she couldn't even get to the toilet. And yeah, so like, there's so much there as well in seeing the future of their children's education, how they'll grow and develop their skills in this community, and how supportive and inclusive it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough old life stage when you've got loads of little ones and they're all running you ragged. And I think so many of us lose sight of it as well. I remembered, like, rather like PTSD, like flashbacks, like trying to occupy one whilst the other one unravels an entire toilet roll and then flip back and goes the other way, and the other one's doing something terrifying instead. It's like, okay, this is a lot.
Never ending.
Never ends. So it helped to ground me again back into remembering that, like, other people are going through different life challenges and it's important we support each other. But anyway, I guess all that to be said is just to remind everybody who's out there who might be kind of looking ahead at the summer thinking we've got a lot on, we're not going to get down to our usual stuff. Just take some time, notice in the moment or later when you get a chance to reflect all of the beauty in what they were actually doing, not just what we felt like they should be doing in that moment. And yeah, that stuff's sometimes, I think, actually a heck of a lot more important than the academic kind of side of things. Yes, okay, academia is wonderful and gives us so many opportunities and things, but also being able to operate in part of a community, being respectful, kind, considerate, thoughtful, interesting, creative, etc. All of that stuff is just so vital.
Exactly.
I think we'll wrap it up there for the season, but obviously we'll be back in September. We've got a loose plan for what the topics are going to be, but I won't tell you yet because it might change. But ultimately, I really wish you all a wonderful summer. Thank you all again for listening to this season. It's so fun being out here, talking to you all the time and letting you guys know what we're up to. Let us know what your favourite episodes have been. Please do leave us a review, comment, etc., because it really helps us to know what you've loved, what kind of episodes you want to see more of. Drop us a line on Instagram, whatever makes sense. But we could really do with some recent 5-star ratings. No, hint, hint. So do get on and do that for us, please. But yeah, we'll see you all again soon. Thank you so much for yet another wonderful season.
You've been listening to the Big Home Ed Conversations podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Big Home Ed Podcast for updates. Also, check out our website at bighomedpodcast.com. We'll be back this September for a new season. We can't wait to see you then. Thanks for listening.